age 50, and I sing.
Hi, I'm John Bradbury from the Specials, drummer with the Specials.
Linval Golden, rhythm guitarist from the Specials.
Well, being on Top of the Pops, performing Gangsters for the first time, which happened to be the number that I joined the band to record, was a fantastic experience. Coming from Coventry, the working class background, and suddenly being on the TV and everything else was fantastic.
I don't remember it at all, but I remember when it was transmitted. We were in Hull, and we didn't have anywhere to watch it, so we had to find a house. So we found this house that had a TV, and we all sat in, I don't even know who it was, but we sat in this living room watching ourselves for the very first time on TV. And it was bizarre.
I mean, I've watched because we all grew up with Top of the Pops, so being able to go on Top of the Pops and do Gangs was amazing. It was absolutely, what a night. It's absolutely fantastic.
And we just sort of soaked up the experience for what it was, just a remarkable experience for, for me, like I say, from a working class background, just incredible experience.
The next day when it was broadcast was even weirder because people recognized me and I just thought, why are they staring at me? That was really strange, really weird. But it was a nice feeling to know that we'd done Top of the Pops. It was great. I knew we all wanted to play. The six of us wanted to do that concert, but it was literally what went on to get to that stage was very, very stressful. And when we did get on there, it seemed to me like only the gig lasted for about 20 seconds because there's so much stress. But to me, it was fantastic to get out and actually play with the rest of the guys.
Bestival, doing Bestival was really a major step, and therefore it's a very important thing in the reunion. Insofar as Horace said to me at the backstage at Bestival that he thought we didn't know how popular we were, but when we walked out there, we suddenly found out that we were indeed needed again or required again, for the entertainment. So it was a big step doing Bestival.
Festival was funny because it was an experiment for us. We needed to see how we would be with each other on stage, and that was a perfect opportunity because it was an unannounced thing and it was raining, and I can remember looking out and seeing somebody, I think they have fancy dress. I hope so, because I saw a prawn dancing, and no drugs involved there at all.
I suppose a lot of them was quite surprised because it wasn't announced that we were doing it. So for the first second, they were all going, "What is that?" But afterward, they got into it, and it turned, they all rolled around in the mud and had a good old mud bath, and it was great. The first night was in Newcastle. It was a very, very, very emotional time for me. Probably the most emotional time in my life away from that night was a very special night because reasons. My cousin died in Birmingham, and we flew her body back to Jamaica to be buried because that's she was, I'm from Jamaica, born in Jamaica, and I couldn't go because the first night I had to be in Newcastle, so it felt really strange not to be with the family in Jamaica, but to be in the stage. But the way the Newcastle crowd, they had no idea because nobody knew, but the way they embraced us on that stage when the curtain went down was like, oh my God, I felt so at home. They were absolutely fantastic. You can't, it was amazing. They just lift me up, and I felt I was just like on the stage celebrating my cousin Sandra's life.
It was a humbling experience to just see that passionate reaction. It was pure passion. At that point, it said to me that we were owned by those supporters. They'd come to see what they had basically kept close to their hearts for so many years. It was a tear-jerking experience, a tear-in-the-eye experience, definitely.
Well, Newcastle was odd. It was very odd, and I don't know if it was my favourite thing, but it was a sort of relief halfway through to realise everything was working. That there was an audience, there was a group, and there was a PA, and everything was working.
Much too young, now you're married with a kid when you could be having.
Yes, it was strange when we went to Japan the first time because we obviously, it's not like what it is today where we got so much modern tech. The world has become very small now. So you can go on website, you can research things. There wasn't a website there in Roman time, you know? So going to Japan and having got off at the airport and then seeing all these loads of Japanese girls just there and they're all bowing like that. I thought, well, when am I going to stop doing this? They're all
Just the pain in the neck I got from bowing, which I couldn't figure out why. I'd certainly developed a pain in my neck. But from that I can remember how incredibly different Japan was. It was like getting off that aircraft was a bit like getting off a spaceship on another planet.
I was shocked in the subway. I felt so tall, and I think the Japanese were more shocked than us because they were sort of unaccustomed to dancing at venues, and it's like when they rose out of their seats, they were told to sit back down again, and it got messy. And I remember promoters sort of freaking out, and well, yeah, but it was good.
I'd never been on a plane before the specials started, and an aircraft, so things like that were incredibly special to me. And going to Japan as well, it's the furthest I'd ever been.
You've done too much, much too young. Now you change.
What I remember about that was it was just one of the most elating experiences. Being away from home, it was quite emotional because I wanted to be at home. It made me want to hug up all the fans that had gone out there and bought it and everything else. It was very, very important. But it was a reality check for me really as well. So, in a sense, I always knew where my feet were planted, and that was in the UK, and that just brought it home big time.
I remember it was in the morning when we got a phone call from Chrysalis, because we were on Chrysalis then, the record label, and we were at Too Much Gin was at number one. So obviously the very first time tasting champagne, was weird because I just we're typical. Me coming from a working class background is beer. My father would drink half and half with this mild and bitter, and to have a glass of champagne and knock that back because Chilled Stone was very, very special.
I find it quite hard to relate to it because it seemed it's difficult. We spent 2 years trying to get a record deal, and once we released a record, it takes on a totally different life. Your band. Before that, you're in total control because you say, we've been offered a gig in Birmingham next Sunday, shall we do it? Yeah or no? But when it's out there in the world, you do lose control of it. And that it got to number one was good because some people related to it, and the message was being heard, and so that was very good. But I never put too much clout in ones and tens. Like if you'd have said, how do you feel Too Much Too Young getting to number 17, I'd still feel the same as I felt number one. I never really worked that one out.
On toast for